For hundreds of years, Christians have been celebrating what is called the Advent season. Advent is related to, but not the same as, Christmas. Advent, in the Western Christian tradition, kicks off the Christian liturgical calendar. We have documented evidences of the celebration of Advent as early as the 300s and definitely by the 400s. So what is Advent? Well, Advent comes from the Latin word adventus, which means coming. It is the translation of the Greek word parousia. The word parousia is the word that the Greek writers and or translators of the New Testament of the Scriptures used in reference to the second coming of Jesus. This word is found in notable passages like Matthew 24, where Jesus discusses the signs of his coming, and in the epistles to Thessalonica, where Paul discusses the nature and timing of Jesus' second coming. Thus, the Advent season among early Christians had an original focus on the second coming. Christians focused their attentions on what it means to wait for and anticipate the glorious second coming of their Lord Jesus Christ. So how did the modern Advent liturgy come about? Well, the truth is that we don't know. We do know that the poetry of waiting for the Messiah are all over the Scriptures, and that the celebrations and rites that we see Christians celebrate Advent with are the images of the Nativity of Jesus. Advent piety starts becoming widespread around the 4th century, which implies that Advent customs are older and could perhaps even have come from the 200s. Some have claimed that the apostles themselves began the Advent customs, but that's impossible to verify. Interestingly enough, we find that once Christianity became legally recognized and prevalent in Europe, they had to figure out a way to prepare mass converts for baptism. In the Eastern traditions, it was common for people to be baptized at Epiphany. Epiphany fell on January 6, and it was the day Syrian Christians celebrated Christ's birth. Spain and Gaul, who borrowed much of their rites from the East, began to observe the period of fasting in preparation for baptism, and it was concurrent with their celebrations of Christ's birth on Epiphany. By the mid-5th century in Ravenna, Italy, we find many Christians using Advent to focus on the incarnation of Christ. Pope Gregory the Great in the early 600s established 4 Sundays of Advent that now focused on the birth of Jesus rather than the second coming. So these customs are beginning to merge. Now, Irish missionaries revived the last day penitence of the Advent season when they began to preach sermons that emphasized the Lord's last day judgment. Thus, by the time of the renowned theologian Bernard of Clairvaux, who lived in the 1100s, Christians spoke of the 3 comings of Christ: in the flesh at Bethlehem, in our hearts daily, and in glory at the end of time. This way, and it is in this way that Christians during the Advent sing, O come, Emmanuel, what child is this, and Gloria in excelsis Deo, among other carols, with a great depth of emotion. Now, in today's United States of America, the Advent season significance can get a bit muddied with the commercial enterprise that is Christmas. Beyond that, there are many who like to pipe up to share how pagan in origin some of the elements of Advent and or Christmas celebrations are. I know this because I used to be one of those people. And while it is true that the Christian church co-opted existing celebrations of the birth of light at the winter solstice from various pagan religions, I don't think that's a good enough reason to discount the celebration of Advent. It's easy to pick on something so immense and so obviously hijacked in meaning as is Advent. But we have to recognize that almost all, if not all, Christian religious practices carry the same characteristics that Advent does. Many conscientious Christians would like to believe that their Christian practices are altogether biblical. However, the reality is that most practices today are perhaps biblically inspired, but they have been either commercialized, hijacked, or infused with non-biblical customs. This goes from the manner in which people pray, to the way church services are constructed, all the way right down to the way that people think the Bible should be read. So what are we supposed to make of all of this? I think Advent is beautiful. I think Advent should be celebrated. Advent is beautiful because Taking some time to remember the first coming of the Messiah and sit with the promises of the soon-to-return Messiah is good. And Advent is beautiful because the way it came to be is really the story of all Christian practices. Advent tells the story of how some people took the images and themes of the scriptures and tried to develop liturgies from them that would make cultural sense to their audiences. These were changed, yes, and modified for centuries. And everyone from churches and empires and countrysides and American poets and Coca-Cola marketing companies all have had their say in the changes to the Advent season. And for as long as Western civilization continues, the voices and modifications will probably keep on taking their toll on this holiday. But none of that has changed, nor will change, what Advent is. It is a season that offers the opportunity to share in the ancient longing for the coming Messiah and to be alert for his second coming.